Hello, here I am again with another preschool lesson. Actually, I think I'm going to do two. Um, we were learning about cave paintings. We went from fossils to cave paintings. This is a very fun book about the first drawing, and it's an imaginative depiction of the child that made the first drawing. And it's based on caves in France. Oh, what are the names? And there's a wonderful virtual tour of the caves online. Let me see, it's Chauvet Pondard. So anyway, look it up. Under Cave Paintings, France, Chauvet Pondard. And I also had an old book from my childhood. Oh, excuse me, not very prepared here. With cave paintings from Moscow. So we looked at the cave paintings, depending on the ages. I mean, they did do some engraving if you were working with older students. But we talked about charcoal, that's burnt wood. You could even show them buying charcoal and how they rubbed the pigment into the caves. And they used the ochre, which is like a stone that was ground down, and they would rub that in as well. They also made charcoal and used like a blowpipe to blow the charcoal. Sometimes in some of the cave paintings, a handprint, and then the blown charcoal on the outside. So those are just some facts for you to digest and present in any way you want. And then what we did was kind of fun because preschool we're doing textures and tactile. So we used sandpaper. And we used chalk, if you don't mind getting messy, and we just had the students draw, what would they draw if they were going to draw on the wall? And, mostly it was just kind of a mixed up color mess. But you can also do this with crayon, works well, and they can also continue exploring color mixing with the sandpaper. With either crayon or the chalks. So you can rub these in, and at the end there's all kind of powder everywhere, and so we kind of gathered up all the chalk powder, covered the hands with powder, and then on another piece of paper made a handprint, kind of like the cave paintings in Lascaux. But I do recommend the book. I enjoyed it very much. One of our students had a birthday, and so today, so this is 2-for-1 lessons. I love this book. I read it to my kids. Any of you who are old enough or young enough to have watched Reading Rainbow, it was a Reading Rainbow book. I did not know that I've got the smoothie here. It starts out with somebody's birthday. So that was kind of fun. He gets a saxophone for his birthday, and there's a birthday cake, and that's the lesson for today was drawing a birthday cake. So this is pretty much, I was surprised at how well, with step-by-step, a little 4-year-old could do this. This is mine. I'm a 63-year-old. But what we did was to use crayon, and I had them rub their hands like this to get the hands warm, and then over their faces and say, imagine that the cake is in the oven now. What kind of cake would you make? And then we drew an oval at the top of the page. Actually, we started with the age for the candle, which the students was for. Then we drew an oval. Everybody drew an oval, and then we did sticks down the oval. And honestly, it could just be oval, oval, oval. That's kind of what I was imagining to make a big imaginary cake. But if you think your students are able, then you can just make layers of cake like that, or one big cake. I didn't have them go around the outside like this. I just had another oval on top, as you can see. Doesn't really matter, because I think that skipping over might be a little bit too complicated. And so they enjoyed stick, stick, oval, oval, and the next oval doesn't have to be bigger, and it doesn't have to be right under it. So they're just making a big wacky cake. And then we decorated the cake. We decorated it with scribbles on the edges for frosting, and at this point we rubbed our hands to make frosting. And then we imagined what flavor we would want our frosting. Maybe we could put our initials on the frosting, or we could make colorful sprinkles, make little flowers. And so they fill their cake with decorations if they want to draw themselves in the background, behind the cake. If you always skip over the cake, but really they're too young to understand, I think, the background foreground thing. If you want to really create some magic, then you could probably draw 4 of them is what I'm guessing. But you draw a line, skip over the cake, and now suddenly the cake is on a table. And they could color this in. And then depending on how interested they are in continuing, or if you want them to press it further, I mean, it's great if they could fill what's going on behind the cake. Maybe a picture of their friends or balloons or something like that. And then you can watercolor over this. We kind of ran out of time, and I think the students didn't want to risk losing the drawings that they had, so we did not watercolor. So I forgot also, there's a counting book about Wayne Thibeaud, and he's the artist that, I think it's D, is it X? It might be D, I think it's D, Wayne Thibeaud. He's the artist that painted all kinds of food items, cakes, slices of cake, pies, a series of donuts, and so that there's a little counting book 1 through 10, and so that was very fun as well to introduce the idea of making a cake, and so then you have also a link to some art history. That's it, 2 for 1. Ciao.